I have come to accept that I really am in the minority when it comes to daylight savings time. I love the time change. I love meeting others who love the time change. I love that it gets dark early. For me, it makes obvious this kind of big, wondrous shift happening around me in light, in temperature, but it's this unexplainable feeling as well, like something is stirring. Call it magic, I don't know. Every time I change that clock. From the ancient Celts, who predated Judeo-Christian times, comes the idea of a thin place which occurs at this time of year, where the threshold between the physical world and the spirit world is thin and permeable, like a veil. And they didn't have to change any clocks to feel it either. All Hallows Eve, otherwise known as Halloween, has become about candy and costumes, but it has deeper roots than that. In the pagan calendar, it's a cross-quarter day, halfway between the autumn equinox and winter solstice. All Hallows Eve, or Samhain, was the time when people of the old religion remembered those who had died because they could feel their presence more deeply in the thin time. In Mexico, as Eileen mentioned, her daughter is there, how amazing. The Day of the Dead, or Dia de los Muertos, is a combination of the Aztec custom of celebrating ancestors with the later Christian observance of All Souls or All Saints Day, a time where the threshold between the physical and spirit world is so permeable that those who they have loved and lost can literally cross through it and come pay a nice visit, hang out, have dinner, dance, sing. Like an annual family reunion. And to those of you who've ever seen pictures of that place, you know it is a party. It seems really natural for humans to mark a time during the year to collectively remember those who have come before, those who have died, to make some room for grief in community again, not just a one-off. And to allow this time to be an invitation for reflection, yes, in some cultures, celebration, but reflection about what death teaches us about life. At most of the memorial services I've led over the years, I've noticed that no matter the circumstance or complicated family dynamic, at some point, whether it be before, during, or after, hugging and crying seems to descend. Even among the most buttoned up of New Englanders, and I love my buttoned up New Englanders, but yes, even among them. Often among people who don't even know one another, if all that well, if at all. Find yourself sitting next to someone you don't know the name of, but then something happens between the two of you. It turns out that simply having love in common or grief in common erases those barriers that so many of us put up with each other. It's nice. Nice. One of my first experiences of death was when my aunt died of a pulmonary embolism in her 40s with no warning signs of any kind. She was just suddenly gone. And at the memorial, her husband brought up a poem to read and could barely speak above a whisper. And suddenly he just stopped and broke down crying. And this other man, who I had no idea who he was, just went up there and held him while he sobbed unselfconsciously. I'd never seen grown men weep like that. And I remember I was a teenager at the time, I looked around and turned around in my seat, and suddenly everyone was weeping. As if Pierre's sobbing made it okay for everyone else to finally have a good cry too. Crying can be like that, contagious, right? I remember it feeling good in that room in that moment, and that's a strange thing to say. It felt really good. Painful, but kind of like an exhale, you know? Like when we can just let it all hang out, it does feel good. It does feel good together. My mom recently flew back to England for a family funeral and reported that during the memorial planning, our cousins, kept repeating that ridiculous saying about wanting to keep a stiff upper lip and not get too emotional. But when the day came to honor their mom, the tears couldn't help but come. And my mom told me that she'd never felt more connected to our English relatives. They finally just let their guard down. I wish they could do that more often. When the tears come, I think about cups brimming over. Like grief has that overflowing quality to it. And I marvel at what love does to our human spirits. It's so much stronger than our best laid plans for keeping it together. It has other plans. It tends to win out no matter how hard we try to fight it. The late Unitarian-Universalist minister, Reverend Forrest Church, who served our sibling church in New York City, All Souls Church, it's a big one, for about 3 decades. He shared about one of his congregants who, upon hearing of a dear friend's terminal cancer diagnosis, wrote to him, "Oh, my heart has been broken again, and for that I am overwhelmingly thankful. Without love, this would not be possible." Oh, what a mystery life is. What a strange thing that death, the end of life, teaches us so much about the lives we are living. What's most important? Maybe grief and loss and remembrance is where the spiritual experience of love happens, or at least one of the places. For what else is love but our tears, or our quivery lips, or when that tightening in our heart and chest happens, like you're at the edge of the dam bursting, that maybe lands you in the arms of someone you don't know, sobbing? Isn't this all love? Embodied and in such abundance. And what an honest testament and honoring to those we mourn. What a gift to them and their lives, this outpouring of love. You know, it makes me sad sometimes when people are grieving and they choose to stay away from church because they think, well, surely nobody wants to be around me when I'm this down, or I just have nothing to offer anyone right now. If that's true, And I'm using my dear mentor, Reverend Frank Clarkson's words now. If that's true, then there's a church which has betrayed its calling. Because if nothing else, the church is here to hold open a space where you can be in touch with not just the heights of life, but also the shadowed valleys. Your grief is just as much of a gift here as is your celebrating. And I would add that church's great call really is to be the thin place all the time. Making time amid our fast-paced lives to consider those who have lived and died, who have touched our hearts, and how they might have struggled to love, how we might have struggled to love them, how they showed us love or taught us about love, how we loved, how they never really knew love, or how their hearts were broken by it, what they did with love, what they didn't do with love. To consider this grand landscape of love in all its multitudes, and ask ourselves what this means for us, the living now. How are we trying to carry and live these lessons forward in some way now? Feels so important. Do something with these teachings, maybe they say to us. Do something with them. It is said that poet E.E. Cummings' most influential life moment was when his parents were in a terrible, terrible car crash. His mother never fully recovered. She was never the same. And his father died in that car crash. And at this point, it is said, and he says, that his poetry completely changed and became about capturing the experience of life and love in word. And he tried for this the rest of his life. Could he have written that beautiful poem about love that we heard today without knowing catastrophic heartbreak? Well, that's the great mystery about loss. Maybe he could have, and maybe not. I carry your heart with me. I carry it in my heart. I am never without it. Anywhere I go, you go, my dear. And whatever is done by only me is your doing, my darling. I fear no fate, for you are my fate, my sweet. I want no world, for beautiful you are my world, my true. And it's you are whatever a moon has always meant, and whatever a sun will always sing is you. Here is the deepest secret nobody knows. Here is the root of the root, and the bud of the bud, and the sky of a tree called life, which grows higher than soul can hope or mind can hide. And this is the wonder that's keeping the stars apart. I carry your heart. I carry it in my heart. As I sat with this poem this week, I thought about All Souls Day around the world, I thought about the ancient Celts and Aztecs who marked this change of season and light with altar building and candle lighting, songs, stories, food, and prayers, as if to say, this is the wonder that's keeping the stars apart. I carry your heart. I carry it in my heart. What if this really is the deepest secret about life, about love? And I don't know about you, but when I imagine the vast multitude of hearts, the infinite amount of love exchanged, longed for, and given in and through my ancestors, loved ones, beloved pets, when I imagine all that love, all of them living in this one little heart that I'm carrying them with me everywhere, yeah, life really does take on a different hue. I mean, what an unimaginable abundance of love we inherit simply by being born into life. And then there's the life we get to live, where we keep gathering more and more and more of love's lessons up and losses up to pass on and impart to those who will follow us. I want to end by giving some of those who we carry in our hearts a closing honoring today by speaking their names into this space. I'm going to guide you through, and you can say their names to yourself or whisper them or speak them loudly, and their names are going to overlap with your neighbors like a dance. It's going to be beautiful and right. And I hope that we can all feel a little bit more the thinness of the veil now and let it offer your life something important today.